Good morning. Oh, a quiet bunch. So I'll try again. Good morning. So this is not my agenda for today, but I just wanted, it's always nice to start out with a little laugh and a little joke to get everybody comfortable. Thank you for inviting me. I think this is an interesting workshop. It's an area that I see lots of potential in and have been talking with people about it for actually a couple of years now. Here's my real agenda for today. So what I want to do is kind of introduce you to the Foundation for the NIH, give you a little overview of our portfolio, look a little bit closer at some specific programs, and hopefully all of this will give you an idea of how we do what we do and some of the obstacles and challenges and some of the opportunities. And hopefully at the end, I'll have a list of some lessons learned, and hopefully those will be helpful to you. So let me tell you a little bit about the foundation. We were established in 1996 by the United States Congress specifically to support the mission of the NIH. And in doing so, by creating public-private partnerships or collaborations with biomedical researchers from multiple sectors. We are an independent 501c3 not-for-profit organization, and that's something that's really important because it gives us some flexibility and allows us to do things that we could not do if we were a government organization. Number one on that list being fundraising. Our government colleagues cannot fundraise, and we can do that. We have an independent board of directors. I'll show you the list to you in a minute. The NIH director and the commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration are ex officio board members. Since 1996, we've raised over $750 million, and that's for about 400 different projects and programs. At any one time, we usually have about 100 programs and projects going, and those I'll show you range from very small things to very big things. Those programs are in various areas. You'll see, again, I'll show you some of this stuff in research partnerships. We do some science education initiatives as well, and training. We do some conferences and events, and we have one capital program. We're rated very highly by an independent charity navigator, and the reason we're rated so highly is because 94 cents of every dollar that we bring in goes directly to our programs. So what we do and how we do it. In general, there's these 4 areas, and I'm going to talk, when I'm talking about some of the specific examples of the programs, I think you'll see how we do some of these things, and hopefully if you have questions. By the way, I'm happy to entertain questions at the end, or if you have a pressing question while I'm talking, just shout out and let me know, and I'm happy to answer as I go along. So, in this day and age where research is becoming very technological, very multi-trans, interdisciplinary, whichever one of those words you want to use, it's becoming very hard for any one sector to support some of these very large kind of research endeavors. And so in order to make those research endeavors happen, sometimes you need to, first of all, isolate what the scientific problem is, find the key players for any one particular problem, and find out where the resources are, and then either identify or be, as in the case for the foundation, kind of the neutral convener, that trusted third party, where everybody can come together and work together on a level playing field. You have to be able to facilitate discussions with lots of different people from lots of different places. And for us, since a lot of the programs that we do are related to drug development, the regulatory bodies that are important for that area, we bring them to the table. So we bring the FDA to the table on many of our partnerships. It's cross-sectorship, so you need to be able to speak different languages and then bring those languages together in one common language. And that's the kind of communicating with everybody and ensuring that everybody has an equal voice sitting at the table. So, by the way, David, when your first bullet was make it easy, it isn't easy, but everybody has to be willing and to participate, to donate their efforts, their resources, and that's what makes it easy to happen. Of course, you have to do this with a great level of transparency and openness, very high ethical standards, clear goals, clear milestones make it really important. You have to say, we're going to do this by this time, and if you don't, you have to make a go, no-go decision. Is the project going to continue, or are we going to stop? And again, you'll see some of that in the examples that I'm going to give. You have to be very nimble and flexible, and I'll demonstrate some of that with the specific programs. And of course, sharing the data, sharing the expertise, sharing the resources, mobilizing all of those and leveraging those resources, and being able to manage all of that either through contracts or grants or overseeing the research by yourself or having somebody else do it. That's part of the partnership. This is our board of directors. It's pretty representative of our stakeholders. We have folks from industry, folks from academia, folks from the philanthropy world, folks from the financial world. Charlie Sanders is our CEO, and he is retired from GSK. He was the CEO of GlaxoSmithKline before retiring from there. As I said before, the NIH director and the FDA commissioner are ex officio members of our board of directors. Reflective of our partners. We have partners from government agencies, from industry associations, other foundations, philanthropists, and individuals and families. And I'll talk a little bit about each of those in talking about the kinds of programs and projects that we organize and help create. Just a little bit about our fundraising. An important thing to note about the Foundation for NIH is we have no endowment. We are not sitting on a pile of money that we can give out. So when we put together a program, we have to bring in the dollars for the program, and we have to bring in the dollars in order to cover our own expenses as well. So the fundraising that we've done over the course of the years, you can see here that big blip in between 2004 and 2005 was a $200 million gift from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation as part of their Grand Challenges in Global Health initiative. That was a $436 million initiative. We've managed $200 million of that. And since then, we have actually doubled that amount from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We've now got about $400 million from them. Our current portfolio right now, we have 114 active projects. Again, they range from small to large. But as you can see, the vast majority of our projects are research partnerships and research programs. The dollars that support those active programs is about $552 million. And again, the vast majority of those dollars are for our research partnerships. So I want to point out a number of different programs, and I apologize at the get-go for any alphabet soup. Everybody has their own alphabet soups. I'll try and explain any acronyms that are here as I go along. This slide is kind of just an overview, just to give you a taste of the kinds of things we do. I guess I have a pointer. Is that working? I can't see it. Okay. Oh, there it is. So even something like gingerbread houses, you probably wonder, why do I have a picture of gingerbread houses on this slide? Well, the NIH Clinical Center at holiday time every year organizes a gingerbread house contest. And the groups come together and make gingerbread houses, and they're on display at the Clinical Center, which is great because all the patients that are being treated in clinical trials there can get to see them as well as the staff. And we provide dollars to support the buying of, they make kits to help start them out, and so we support that. We have one capital project, and that's to support the Edmund J. Safra Lodge on the NIH campus. It's a home away from home for families of adults that are being treated in the clinical center, and that was largely a gift from the Safra Foundation and Lily Safra, who is one of our board members as well. There are races and I'll talk a little bit about that. We have speakers, and I'm too much at an angle to see where this is. Maybe I can use can you see that one? Oh, okay, that's even better. So this is our speaker. We have some speaker series. The Biomarkers Consortium is a program that has a membership and supports research on biomarkers in 4 different areas. I'll talk some more about some of these other programs. The Jeffrey Bean Global Neurodiscovery Challenge last year was our first prize competition that we participated in with the Jeffrey Bean Alzheimer's Initiative, Jeffrey Bean Foundation Alzheimer's Initiative. Down here at the bottom, this is Nina Solars. This is former Congressman Solars, who was treated at the NIH Clinical Center in a clinical trial. And Nina actually found the FNIH as a result of her husband having been treated there, and she wanted to give back to the NIH and asked around and found that the foundation exists, and she has now created a fund to support a researcher on the NIH campus. And this, in the bottom corner here, I've lost there it is. That is the clinical center at NIH, and we have a program actually where we get drugs that are needed by the clinical center for them to do their work donated by pharma companies, and by having those drugs donated, the clinical center can utilize their really important resources for other kinds of things. So lots of different things. I'll talk more specifically about a few different ones. So individual donors, I pointed to the race, the Boo Run, which is a race held every October in Washington. This is from a family, the O'Neill family, whose father was, again, treated at the NIH Clinical Center, and also the Rancic family, who are both funding research in the lab of Dr. Childs on the NIH campus. He is a renal cell cancer researcher, and these folks have come together to provide funds to support postdocs in Dr. Childs' lab. And over the years, the O'Neill Fund started in 2003, the Rancic in 2004. We've raised over $570,000, and it's literally from over 1,000 donors. So it's individual people giving their $10, $25, and everybody together creates a lot of money for a good cause. These 3 small National Eye Institute projects I put on just an example of a research program that is small. These were 3 gifts from 3 industry partners who are interested in eye diseases and uveitis and macular degeneration. Very simple mechanism. The private sector funds come to us. We get them to NIH. NIH provides them to the appropriate intramural research labs. Under $50,000 each for the 3 gifts. And the director of the National Eye Institute came to us and said, I would like you to administer these because I want that distance. I want to avoid that conflict of interest. I want that neutral party in between accepting the dollars and overseeing the dispersal of those dollars. Easy, quick, fast, easy to transfer, and minimal administrative costs for us. jump to something rather larger. This is the Alzheimer's Disease Neuroimaging Initiative. It's a $150 million initiative. $100 million came from the National Institute of Aging at NIH. We raised the rest. It's a longitudinal natural history study with now over 1,200 participants on Alzheimer's disease, looking at all stages of the disease, normal cognitive aging, people with subjective memory complaints, mild cognitive impairment, and early Alzheimer's disease. It was launched in 2004, so it's been ongoing now for almost 10 years, is about to probably be re-upped for another 5 years. The principal investigator is planning his application for the next 5 years. And it is specifically designed to provide biomarkers for clinical trials in Alzheimer's disease. This has a little bit more complicated structure. This is a project that we call an NIH Managed Program. So we have 28 industry, foundation, and I hope you see the Canadian Institutes of Health Research as a partner in this. And they provide funds to us. We transfer those funds to the NIH, and those go out through the NIH just like normal appropriated funds for the ADNI program. We oversee the partnership. We have a private partner scientific board that is composed of all of our partners. And ADNI is a kind of a gold standard kind of partnership because the data from ADNI go into the public domain immediately. Little bit of quality control. They go onto a database. Anybody, once you apply and fill out the data use agreement, which mostly you just have to say you're a bona fide researcher that wants to do research on Alzheimer's disease, can utilize that data. But these companies, these 28 companies, give us money to the tune of, over the past 10 years, $50 million to help support this effort. Because the kind of information that they're getting, as well as the rest of the research community, is really important to them. Because the data go into the public domain immediately, there are no issues with conflict of interest or the industry members not being able to see data because it would be seen as a quid pro quo, which is something that we have to avoid. Our industry partners can't be seen to be paying money to get an inside look at the information beforehand. So they're able to interact with everybody in ADNI on a very, very detailed and ongoing basis. We have members of our PPSB that are liaisons to all these cores that you see. So when the cores have weekly or biweekly or bi-monthly calls, there's a PPSB member on those calls to talk about the data, to talk about where the study is going. So the industry partners have had a very, very strong hand in helping to shape what ADNI is and what ADNI does. As a matter of fact, the plans for ADNI 3, which will be the application that will go in next year, are being made now, and the PI of ADNI comes to our industry partners and says, what do you guys need to know? What do we need to make ADNI do so that it's going to be useful to you? So they help shape what the program's going to look like and what the research is going to look like. And this is what makes a good partnership, because everybody is involved in establishing what the partnership is and does. We have a couple of new partnerships that have been announced fairly recently. Again, these are large research initiatives. I kind of skipped over the middle-y ones. One of them is the Accelerating Medicines Partnership. And one point that I want to make about, and I'll use AMP to do that, is these partnerships don't just spring up overnight. Somebody doesn't say, hey, let's do the Accelerating Medicines Partnership, and poof, there it is. So the planning for this has been 2 years in the making. So it isn't easy, it's hard, and it does take time because there's a lot of back and forth and negotiating that has to go on. So this is an alliance among the NIH, 10 biopharmaceutical companies, some not-for-profit organizations, and us. And it's looking at specifically targets for drug development. We all understand that drug development these days is extremely expensive, takes an extremely long amount of time, 10 to 15 years at a cost for any one particular drug of, you hear numbers from $1 to $2 billion. It's getting too expensive for any one sector to afford. And that's the thing about public-private partnerships, is it brings these sectors together who can take these big research problems and big scientific issues and approach them with resources and experience and expertise from multi-sector groups and put them all together to make something happen. Accelerating Medicines Partnership, or AMP, is starting out with 3 diseases, looking at Alzheimer's disease, type 2 diabetes, and some autoimmune disorders, rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. And it's about a $230 million program, and it's split between the NIH and the funds that we're raising from the partners. Here are the partners. You can see, again, partners from industry. Different industries are interested in different diseases. Some of them are interested in more than one. A number of the NIH institutes, the FDA and the Pharmaceutical Research Manufacturing Association, and a number of nonprofit members, depending on the disease area. And of course, it's so important to include the nonprofits and the advocacy organizations, because then you're bringing the patient perspective into these partnerships as well. I'm not going to get into all of these details. I didn't put this slide up so that you can learn everything there is to know about AMP. I don't even know everything there is to know about AMP. There's other folks at the foundation that run it. But what I wanted to do is just show you there's a number of different research plans that are happening for each one of the disease areas. They've got specific deliverables that have been laid out for each of them. There are going to be milestones along the way. This is a 5-year effort. And there are different mechanisms of the way that we are helping this project happen. So for Alzheimer's disease, the NIA has funded 3 large grants. So that's where the dollars from the NIH are coming from. The dollars that we are raising are supplementing those grants, and specifically supplementing them to look at biomarkers and disease targets. Remember, this is a project that's slated to look and improve the biological targets for drug development. In type 2 diabetes, you'll see that there are some grant solicitations from NIH, and there are also going to be some requests for proposals that we're going to develop and that we will oversee. So in our management, we'll be managing some of the research ourselves. We'll be sending money over to NIH to help support the grants that they're doing. And again, you see that with the lupus and the RA as well. There are grant solicitations that will be coming out from NIAMS, and then we will be supplementing with our industry dollars those grants along the way. Again, I didn't put this up so everybody can memorize who all the people are on AMP, but it's a good demonstration of the mixture of the groups and sectors that are involved in the steering committees for each one of the diseases, the executive committee. FNIH is over here in the corner without any lines pointing to anything, because we're kind of overseeing the management, so we oversee and convene these groups. And that's part of our management and project management work that we do. Another new program that has just recently been announced is LungMap. This is targeting squamous cell carcinoma of the lung. Again, a diverse group of entities that are supporting it, us, the National Cancer Institute, the FDA, Friends of Cancer Research. This is an advocacy organization, a patient organization. All the alphabet soup in the middle are these cooperative groups that come out of the National Cancer Institute. And what this is this is a master protocol in order to help recruit patients for targeted therapies in cancer. So if you think about it, if you're going to have a targeted therapy that is going to be targeted to the genomics and the genetics of a cancer or a type of cancer, you're going to have to screen lots and lots of people to find all those ones with this particular mutation or that particular mutation. And what this program is doing is creating a large clinical trial infrastructure with a common elements and standardized protocols so that large number of patients across the country across the United States country can be screened, and then they will be put into 5 different arms. There are currently 5 drug companies that are participating. And so the patients with the squamous cell cancer, their tumor is analyzed, and that's done on a platform that goes across the whole trial. Ones with specific mutations will go into specific arms to test these 5 different drugs for these that are targeted to these specific mutations. Very complicated, going to happen at hundreds of sites across the country, but creating an infrastructure so that drug company A, who has one drug that's going to target these specific mutations, isn't going to have to screen a gazillion patients, and then drug company B over here doing a separate trial will have to do that. They'll all be screened in a common infrastructure. It'll be interesting to see how it works. It's just getting underway. Again, another complicated governance structure. And if you notice, each one of these is a little bit different. You know, you have to do things that are going to work for each particular partnership. Here we are we're a member of the Trial Oversight Committee, and we're doing project management. We're overseeing the contracting and the fundraising, helping to oversee the data sharing and any IP issues. The Cancer Institute and their oncology groups, one of them in particular, holds the IND for this trial and is actually going to be running the trial. We did a similar program called I-SPY for breast cancer, where we actually held the IND. So hopefully, lessons learned. This is the important part. So if I put you to sleep with all the other slides, wake up. So, as you might guess, a matrix that's greater than the sum of the parts. That's what doing these partnerships is all about. You're leveraging resources, expertise, data, people, all kinds of things, and putting it together in a way that's going to amount to something that's bigger than any one sector can do by themselves. Very important to have very well-defined objectives, budgets, milestones, and deliverables, especially if you're interacting with industry, because that's how industry works. They work with milestones and objectives and no-go decisions. Common governance and rules and legal framework, that puts everybody sitting at the table at the same place. Realistic funding goals. You know, you can't expect to raise $100 million forever. You know, you have to have some sort of a limit and a definition of what it is that the program's going to cost. Obviously, the project has to align with donor interests. If they're not going to be interested, they're not going to participate or fund it. Appreciation of the value of the gifts. One of the reasons I put that on there, we work with the NIH a lot. It's a $33 billion entity. People at NIH, if you raise $100,000, That's not much money, you know? Raising $100,000 is raising a lot of money, and so getting our colleagues at NIH to understand and appreciate the value of the gifts, even if they're only $1,000 or $100,000. Again, collaboration, of course, adds a lot of complexity, so everybody's got to learn to play nice with each other. Nimble, transparent, accountable are vital. You have to be, that avoids the conflict of interest issues, and that keeps everybody all on the same table at the same time. And finally, I'll end with my mantra, which is, when you've seen one partnership, you've seen one partnership. Thank you.